to get us started, we've invited six of our really fantastic industry leaders over here to talk about sort of the state of the industry, what they see as trends, opportunities, challenges facing all this. So we're going to get their comments and their observations on this. To a real state of the structured settlements industry, something we like to do once in a while and haven't done in a little while. So we'll welcome them aboard.
Thank you all for joining us. And I'd like to get started with each of you introducing yourselves. We'll start with our fellow board member, Buster Joyner.
All right, let's go ahead and start with move on to Chris Harlan.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you for putting on this presentation. I'm very happy to be wearing pink myself. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed in 1995, and she just turned 71 just a couple months ago. So she has been great. I'm also repping Team Carla, my mother-in-law. A lot of you know Stan. His wife has been diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. So thoughts and prayers her way. Again, my name is Chris Harlan. I'm the president of Summit Structured Settlements. I have been in the industry since 2005. I very much enjoy what we do, helping claimants, helping insurance companies get these things settled, and I'm looking forward to this panel.
Thank you. Kathryn, how about you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathryn Criswell, Alliant Structured Settlements. I'm the vice president and practice leader. I'm also have really good friends that have survived breast cancer, and I don't think that we can talk about it enough. And we wish Carla really well, Chris.
Thank you.
We're all pulling for her. I'm happy to be in this industry 30-something years now, and happy to represent the women on the panel. Thanks, everybody.
Brad?
Hi, thank you. I'm Brad Cantwell, the CEO of Arcadia Settlements Group. I also have about a 30-some year history in the industry. I also appreciate all the efforts of my fellow panelists and the NSSTA Women's Caucus in support of breast cancer awareness. I too have a family and friend circle that's been visited too often. And so I appreciate everybody's efforts.
And Peter.
Good morning, all. I'm Peter Jachym. I'm vice chairman of Ringler Associates. For the past 18 months, I've served as president and chief executive officer of Ringler Associates. And very recently, within the past within the past month, we've brought on Gerardo Monroy to succeed me as president and chief executive officer. He's on the call somewhere today, so I extend to him a warm welcome. My background, as many of you know, has mostly been in investment banking, and I came to the structured settlements industry as a board member at Ringler, initially as an outside board member. So I'm hoping that I can provide possibly a different perspective on a couple of the issues that we may talk about this morning. And I'm very pleased that I was invited to this call, particularly to support the very important theme of breast cancer awareness. Thank you.
Buster, are we going to try again? No, we still can't hear Buster. All right. Sorry, Buster. Well, so we'll get right into it. So, a question I want to open up for all of our panelists, all that we can hear anyways. 2023 has I think, exceeded even our most optimistic projections for in premium. My question is this sustainable growth? And what can we do as an association and as members of the association to sort of foster that growth? Brad, can I start with you?
Sure. Nolan, you may know that at the last annual NSSTA meeting, my colleague Bob Lee talked about what we consider a generational opportunity for the industry. And we predicted for 2023 somewhere in the $7.5 to $8 billion range in production. It does seem as if that will turn out to be conservative, even though at the time people, there was more than a few eyebrows raised. We expect growth to continue over the next several years, but it isn't without challenges. Most of the increase in production we've seen has been accounted for by a growth in case size. And that's in some ways sort of counterintuitive because with the big interest rate improvement we've seen in the last 12 to 18 months, you would expect to see more smaller cases, for example, that had kind of gone away as opportunities come back. We haven't seen the number of cases rise yet. And I think that the sort of the demographics of our industry, not just of our consultants, but of the primary drivers of structured settlement, production in the field, the claims professionals and attorneys who are big drivers of structured settlements, they are also at a point where most of them have had long experience. They've jumped on the opportunity to get better results in the current interest rate environment. But I think it's a big challenge for us if we want to sustain growth, that we have to reach a broader audience, more claims professionals and attorneys, those who are younger and handle the smaller cases. I know that I'm sure everybody on this panel and their the chief consultants with their firms, they started by handling, 5-figure cases, 6-figure cases, low 6-figure cases, and now a lot of those people are handling larger cases. We need to continue to get after the smaller cases and the people who handle them in order to sustain growth in the future.
Brad, I handled 4-figure cases when I started because Met P&C allowed you to do structures and waived all the fees for any of their Met claims. And so the number of $1,500 structures I did, I'm proud to say is in the triple digits probably. But anyways, thank you, David Hickey. I see you managed to get here. Please introduce yourself and we're asking everybody to talk about the growth that we've seen in 2023. Do you feel like this is a sustainable growth? This isn't a bubble, and what can we do to sort of make sure that happens?
Well, thanks, Nolan. Hi, Kerri, and I apologize for a little technical delays on our part, but my name is David Hickey. I'm with Brant, Hickey and Associates, and I appreciate the question and also greatly appreciate the opportunity to be, by some at least, viewed as an industry leader. I guess after 28 years of being able to succeed and exist, that qualifies a bit. And I'm very optimistic about the future and that this, in fact, is sustainable. I think what we're seeing to some degree is, since we have the same claim count, generally speaking, that we're not seeing the penetration into new markets that I think we would all like to see, but rather the recognition by parties settling that the structure is a really good option, especially because of the interest rates. And I think we have to look at that reality that we're always sort of sitting at that fulcrum of safety versus guaranteed rate of return versus what the market may deliver. So I think it's going to be really essential for us as leaders to focus on the safety aspect of what we provide through structured settlements and really try to expand our marketplace into new areas, which I think will dovetail with later questions about how we bring additional consultants into the business. And I think one thing's for sure, there isn't a structured settlement broker breathing today that is so busy they cannot handle a few more cases. I've never heard any consultant ever say, "I'm too busy, Dave, don't send me any more work. I just can't handle it." So we know we have the expansion available in the current format, but I think it's really critical that we find a way to bring in younger people and really help them expand the market. Maybe, Nolan, not to 3 or 4-figure cases that may not be available right now, given the small policy limits, but we should really try to concentrate as a group on how we can figure out and how collectively as an industry we can target some new markets together.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Kathryn, what are you seeing from your perspective?
I'd echo a lot of the things that have already been, said here about, youth, sustainability and all that kind of thing. I think we need to do a little bit of work in penetrating the markets, like what we've talked about with the case counts low. Now, the cases that we're seeing, however, are good cases. There are not a lot of those cases anymore that are, oh, we just need a quote for our file kind of thing. So the quality of cases and the opportunities to structure out there are really there. On the defense side, I think we need to do a much better job
Give me Mark.
of getting to the people that are not as educated about structures that are handling claims now. And the more that we can educate them and tell them that we need to be there from the beginning and not just at the end, we're not an end product, we're a solution, that will help overall as well.
Fantastic. Buster, it sounds like we've got you back now. Thank you for working so
You tell
hard.
me, can
Yep,
We
yep,
got
we
you.
can hear you.
oh my
You
thank
probably haven't
goodness.
worked that hard
Hello.
since you were playing quarterback for Georgia.
It's like fumbling the snap. I've certainly done that before.
So Buster, we're asking the panelists right now to talk about the growth and whether or not we feel that there's issues with sustaining it and what we can do.
So I feel that the growth will continue. I think because of the social inflation and the larger cases that we're dealing with, and the fact that the interest rates are allowing structures to be utilized in smaller cases as well. So I think the growth will continue. As far as the market-based products, I think that they will fill a need also that will provide growth. And so I feel that that we're in a good situation moving forward. Certainly much better than we were even a year ago, and certainly better during COVID. So I think we just need to stay the course and deliver a professional service to our clients, and then we can talk about that a little more. But I do feel that we're in a good spot, and I think that we should be good stewards of where we find ourselves at the moment.
Thank you. And Chris, do you have any additional things of ideas of making sure that we continue to ride this wave moving forward?
Sure, absolutely. That's the question of, is it sustainable? I'll just start with, I sure hope so. It's been a good year for a lot of brokers and a lot of claimants and a lot of attorneys see the benefits of that. I agree with everything that all my co-panelists have already said. Kathryn, I think, hit the nail on the head with, educating claims people to bring us in. We're not an end product. That's claims people. That's plaintiff attorneys. When I get a call from a plaintiff attorney that says, hey, I've settled the case, my client's going to get $1.2 million. If I'm coming in at the tail end of that client has already spent that money in their mind. They already have an idea of where they're going to spend that, things like that. So we're an entry level, like we need to be there right at the very beginning to give them their options, things like that. Same thing goes for claims professionals and frankly some mediators too. Mediators should be open and willing to discussing these ideas. We've seen a big increase in attorney's fees this year. I think that has really helped us as well, because a claimant that may not have taken a structure that all of a sudden sees his attorney or her attorney's taking a structure, and they're thinking, okay, well, this is somebody that I hired to do a really good job for me. They got me a great settlement, and they're using this product. Maybe I really should take a second look at it.
That's a great perspective. Now, Peter, I call on you last because I figure with your background, your perspective might be slightly different on this question. But where do you see us going from here?
Thank you, Nolan. Yeah, in fact, I'd like to take a different approach. Of course, I agree with everything that the other panelists have said, particularly with the need to focus on smaller cases and continue to expand the business. But as far as the question of sustainability goes, I'd like to focus on three kind of macro factors. The first one is interest rates in the inflationary environment. And really, the recovery of our business started about 18 months ago, roughly May, June 2022, when we started to see interest rates go up and the crediting rates on structures go up as well. That has proved to be remarkably sustainable. And clearly that's related to inflation. And I would make the macro argument that we have even more inflationary factors in the environment now than maybe we did when we were seeing inflation at 8 and 9%. You have the world going on to a wartime footing. You have a decline in the supply of labor worldwide, and that has to do with demographics in China, the United States, and Europe. You continue to have pressure on raw materials. And all those things, I think, will make this current interest rate environment more sustainable. I don't think the Fed is likely to take things down to what we saw when we had 2% interest rates. So I think that gives us a really good backdrop. Now, it's really important, and we've talked about this a lot within Ringler, that this isn't entirely an interest rate product. We're fulfilling a need. There's the tax advantages of it. There's the way that this can work in terms of sustaining a payment stream to an injured party. And I think it's really important on the part of the industry that we continue to focus on those factors and not just interest rates. But from my perspective, interest rates look good, and I think you need the wind behind the boat to keep this thing going. So I think that's very positive. The second macro factor I'd like to focus on is what, in fact, is the size of our market and what's the market potential. If you took all tort settlements in the United States, that number might be 300 billion, might be more, it might be close to 400 billion. We used to define the size of the structured settlement industry as being 6 billion. This year, it probably comes out to be about 8.5. Round that up to 9 and say that the total tort settlement market is 300 billion. Can't think of a lot of financial services business that broadly defined have a 3% market share. So depending upon how we define our market, how we expand, how we develop new product, this has enormous potential for growth. And the third factor I'd like to focus on is technology. That, we're on the edge of a lot of new technological advances that can help to leverage the individual structured settlement broker, whether that is proprietary technology systems that many of our firms have been working on, or even the advantage of AI, using AI in quoting or in product design. I think we're about to see where technology really helps to leverage the impact that everybody in this business has. So I think, this is a slightly different answer, but I think if you, look to a number of those factors, we're faced with a great environment for sustainability in the next year or two.
That's a great answer and nowhere near where I thought you were going, but thank you. That was incredibly enlightening. Thank
Where
you.
should I have gone, Nolan?
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to follow that? Kerri.
Well, I will actually, if you don't mind, Nolan.
Yeah, please.
Please.
And Kerri, I would like to say, I think Peter, that particularly the last comment about technology, the use of technology. I think we're going to see that is going to be one of the keys in expanding the number of people that we're actually reaching. We've been a laggard industry in terms of our use of technology for years, and we've seen some trends that have got exacerbated during the pandemic. The claims professionals working from home, many claims offices closing entirely, a lot of attorneys now working from home, the ability for the more experienced practitioners to educate and socialize structured settlements within their groups has gone away. The ability to reach those folks has changed drastically. And I think technology is going to be a key to reaching a broader group and our opportunities. I agree that this should be a $20 to $30 billion industry. It's almost a shame that we're maybe at 3% penetration.
Thank you. And it's interesting when we talk about technology and the different ways that we're doing business now. And I think later on today, when we hear from the Next Gen Committee, I think that is going to be one of the most interesting things that our next generation of our consultants is going to bring to the table, because they do have a different way of looking at things. And I'm excited to hear what innovations that committee can help drive us towards as we move forward. So it was a really great point. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic answers.
Yeah. So the next couple of questions we're going to direct to to half of the panel at a time. Obviously, anyone who has anything to add, please do. But the next question I'm going to direct to Kathryn, Buster, and Chris. What do you see as the biggest challenge that we're facing in the next couple of years as an industry? And then on the flip side, what then is that opportunity, and what opportunity can that bring to us by passing that challenge? Kathryn, we'll start with you.
Challenges, exhaustion. I mean, everybody's a little bit tired right now. I know we talked about that everybody would always do one more case, and all of us will. We're professionals and we will, but I think that there's a general sense of exhaustion after the last 18 months, at least amongst most of the people that I talk to. Retirements is another issue. Bad economy may be good for us with the security, but chaos leads to people pulling things closer. So I don't know how much they're going to want to trust, something that's promised. Rogue actors, industry movement, cybersecurity, all of those things come to mind for me.
Thank you.
Good answers.
Yeah. And Chris?
Exhaustion, I would agree with. Absolutely. A lot of our brokers within Summit, outside of Summit, are just crazy. And the amount of travel has gone down. The amount of mediations that I'm attending in person has gone down substantially, which is, good and bad. I think that's a problem. I feel whenever I'm actually able to sit with a client and things like that, I'm able to get a lot more across than I am over a Zoom or over a phone call, things like that. Now, yes, I'm doing the Zoom from my office, so when I'm not in there, I'm able to get other things done. But I still think that's a problem. I would like to get back to much more in-person mediations, things of that sort. I would also say, factoring is always kind of an issue that we run into. I feel like a lot of times it gives there are some bad players out there that give someone in our industry a bad name. It's frustrating when I meet people and I kind of tell them what to do, and you're from that bus commercial. Like, no, that's the exact opposite of what we do. So finding a good way to battle against that, I think would be important.
A bus commercial as opposed to a Maury-Povich commercial. I'm not sure which one's better.
Sure.
Buster?
So, I mean, all these challenges that were identified are there, and you can almost pick one and talk about them and spend time with them. One of the challenges that I see just from our perspective, meaning the structured settlement industry, is that we're sort of split. We lost a group to ASC, and then here we are at NSSTA, and I would just like to see the industry from a producer group to come back and share the same vision and work on these challenges that are in front of us that have been identified, and they're all there. But if we could somehow reach out and talk about, particularly now that the business has doubled, if not tripled, since COVID, if there's any way that we could reach out and unify as an industry group and not split between the idea of growth and how we achieve growth. And so I know that this is not a specific challenge, but I think it may be one of the largest challenges that we have is how these two groups identify growth, whether it's a market-based approach and they want to get rid of the impediments for market-based products because they view is it investments, or if it's a traditional structured settlement method to settle claims with periodic payments. And so I think it's something that it would be worthwhile if we could ever try to come together again and face the other challenges that we have, which are formidable.
Buster, I think that's a great comment, and I think even above and beyond just the inherent challenges with it, it also is there are opportunities that we perhaps aren't capitalizing on because we're not unified. You take our 2 days to make a difference in DC back in March. We were there. There were people from AASC there as well. Both of us with more or less the same message mission as well to to grow the industry and to make sure that we protect our ability to provide future periodic payments to injured individuals. And I think our power to do that would certainly be exponentially larger as one unit as opposed to two. I think it's fortunate that we have recently made sure that it's known that members of firms other than NASTA producer firms can join NASTA as associate members. They get the right to attend meetings. They get the right to serve on committees. They can't serve on the board or vote for the board, but it's a step in the right direction of making sure that they're there. And again, back to what Kerri said earlier on a different point was being in a room together with people that you see on opposite sides of the case. I definitely think there's opportunities for us that we're missing out on because we are not as unified. Before I move on to the next question, Brad or Peter, David, any additional comments on that? Okay.
I just want, if I could,
yeah, please.
if I could just to drop back a little bit on what Brad before a little bit, and Peter, of course, on technology. I think that we can't ignore technology. We can't ignore AI. I mean, it's part of the commerce. It's part of how business is changing in our country and around the world, and we should embrace it. And we should take every advantage of it to promote structured settlements. I also fall on the side of it's really, I think, so much about the individual settlement consultant and their professional abilities to contact attorneys and claims professionals and educate them and work with them, face to face. I'd love to go back to in-person mediations. I know Zoom and team meetings is so much more cost effective and easy to do, but it's just not having that human interaction that's so important at that time of settlement that drives the buses, whether it gets done or not. And I think all the effort we can put into expanding the role of the structured settlement consultant and enhancing their ability to market is going to be a real key, whether it's younger people, whether it's or us older dogs, really to the ABCs of getting out and seeing people in person, because there's nothing like having a personal face-to-face relationship with somebody to establish trust, which is really what our industry has always been about, the trust in what we are able to provide as a market to guarantee people's lives financially secure going forward.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Peter.
I'd just like to add one other thing in the challenge column that I think is really important, and it's probably longer term than just next year. But I think we need to be more expansive in terms of the participants in our industry. And I came to this later in life, and I'm delighted to see all the same faces, and I think this is a wonderful group of people to be able to work with. But it's not exactly in growth mode. And if we're to achieve some of the other things that we talked about before, I think it's really important that we bring in new people, have more people actually out doing this job. And, it's subject for, full afternoon's discussion, but on the difficulties of bringing people in. But I think that's just critical to our future success.
And Kathryn, I saw you wanted to have another comment.
Yeah. Kind of following on what everybody else has said, another big challenge that's happened is we don't always know each other in a case, right? So how many times are you guys chasing who's involved in the case, who's not involved in the case? Is there anybody involved in the case? I personally had probably a handful, if not more, cases this last year that nobody else was involved and nobody would let us talk to the plaintiff. And they were 8-figure settlements because people out there weren't educated about it. Very, very frustrating in a lot of situations. So I think we need to take the mystery out of it from the defense attorneys, the plaintiff attorneys, and just say, we all want to work together to make sure that the best result for everybody is reached. And I think that that's one of the biggest things, and following on what Buster said, bringing everybody together so that we treat this as a very professional transaction where everybody knows everybody's role and we're able to work together collegially to make sure that the best results are had.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Great point.
Well, so moving on, it's been mentioned already, market-based products. Interest rates were low not so long ago, and this rise of these market-based products came about. Now we've got interest rates, where we're routinely seeing returns around 5%, and suddenly I'm not sure the market-based products have quite the same allure. I want to ask you guys how your perspective on those market-based products has changed in the current interest rate market. Starting with you, Chris, have you been using them, and have your consultants been using them, and have you seen any change in behavior towards those in the last 18 months?
Yeah, I've absolutely been using them. I have some of our brokers that don't, that just say, nope, this is the standard product I've sold forever. It's a product. It's worked for 30 years, as long as I've been doing it, things like that. And I have some that have really, really gotten behind it. Obviously, we've used a lot of, the ILAPA, things of that nature. Now that cap of 5%, with current rates where they are, it would be nice if, there was some movement there. But I think alternative products absolutely have a place. And I've had several cases. I've got two good sized ones for minors with GSS just recently that the clients didn't like the fixed rate of structure. And so we were able to throw, okay, well, here's a fixed rate that can cover these needs and GSS that can do this. We've sold some ice structure and a lot of those things. There are aftermarket fixed indexed annuities that I think if we could somehow incorporate those into our thing that that have a downside that you can't lose, I think there's absolutely room for more variable. But I also think there's always going to be room for the fixed, especially when rates are where they are. It's a lot of people just sleep well at night knowing exactly what they're going to have. But I also think having the option is key.
Honestly, Brad, what's your perspective on that now?
Oh, Nolan and Kerri, so what I think has changed today is that sense that we saw a couple of years ago of desperation, that people that's gone away. That we can't use annuities to solve a typical case problem because interest rates were in the high ones or very low twos. That thankfully has gone away. That said, anybody who's been in this business for a long time, and I count myself as one of them, I remember when I started in the business in the early 1990s, when interest rates were 7 and 8% on annuities, there was still always a lot of demand for market-based investments. And we lost a lot of cases that essentially cashed out because people were wanting or needing market-based growth. And even in a typical case, and I know that this is true of many settlement planners, if a case of some size, there was often a little more cash allocated than you would ideally want for somebody who was vulnerable because of a serious physical injury or death. And that cash was set aside because in addition to meeting the absolute known needs with a structured settlement annuity, which is always going to be the centerpiece of structured settlement planning, people felt that they needed to take something else off the table for growth. Having the option of structured growth with tax-free or tax-deferred benefits is a huge advantage. And I think what we'll see is rather than market-based products being used to address unusually low interest rates, they will be used for what they should be, which is a supplement to the known benefits from a structured settlement annuity for those who have long-tailed growth needs. They have particularly medical inflation or other future expenses that need to be accounted for. I think there will always be a need for growth products, and our our industry will be more effective. We'll capture more cases. We'll capture a better portion of more cases if we're able to integrate it appropriately.
Peter, again, with your background, I'm again really interested to hear what you think about this. I mean, we at Ringler talk about it a lot internally, I know, and so I'm just kind of curious, where do you see this going in the current interest rate environment?
Thank you, Nolan. And I think it's important to look at the current investment environment and then compare it with a long-term point of view that we all might take and what the future might look like. And earlier this morning, I was spending quite a bit of time looking through Ringler's own investment portfolio and what works and what doesn't. And the fact of the matter is that in this market environment, the best thing you can be invested in is cash. Treasury bills, Treasury money market fund, 5.5% risk-free. It's like an infinite Sharpe ratio, which compares the return to the risk involved. Most of the variable products rely to some extent on a mix of assets, stocks and bonds. And the Wall Street Journal over the past week, going back to the weekend, and there's just another piece over the past couple of days, talks about the 60-40 portfolio, which tended to be kind of the autopilot thing that you did if you wanted a mixture of assets and, sort of the set it and forget it kind of thing. And that has not done well in this market environment. And part of the reason is because of the risk associated with bonds. As interest rates have gone up, the value of the bond portfolio has gone down, and total returns have lagged in the 60-40 portfolio. So if you look at the current environment, the original question is really well worded, that at 5%, and that's 5% with extremely low levels of risk on a structured settlement, everything else pales in comparison. But you really have to take a longer term point of view, because that's not going to go on forever. Eventually, those interest rates are going to come down. I don't think anybody thinks the 60-40 portfolio is dead permanently. And as Brad was saying, growth factors are really important here. So I think that, the sense of education, that long-term knowledge base, that sense of long-term growth, particularly in longer dated settlements, becomes really important. And one of the things that I've noted is that, our industry as a whole has really come together to address those things. We've got, I can think of a number of life companies, and everybody here can as well, that are coming up with new forms of products that provide a market-based return. And those are likely to kick in over the next couple of years, and I think provide some really effective alternatives over the long term. So again, I think it's a very bright future for us with regard to market-related product. But, asking the question right now in October 2023, it's hard to see that is a better alternative than fixed or, frankly, even a cash return in this market. It's sort of a tough time to ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, one thing also that always is a factor for me when I'm meeting with someone, say they're 35, 40 years old, but a catastrophic injury has left them where they're not going to work again. We refer to them often as a unique investor profile. They're not in a position where they can sustain the risk because they're pulling out money. Greg Micheletti hears it from me a lot. Just the absolutely amazing dissipation study that he did, his dissertation on dissipation. I love that title. It's something I cite a lot of times to people. And in this last one, when he expanded on it at the meeting in Las Vegas, it was just fascinating how few financial planners beat the market. Or beat the index,
Absolutely.
I should say, beat the index. So, I mean, with that perspective, and again, I want to hear if anyone else has anything to say on this. It's like, how do you talk about market-based solutions, and do you use those sort of talking points in doing it, and does it help get a better understanding of where it fits into the overall plan?
Well, I'll jump
Nolan,
in on
I
that,
think
Nolan.
Good, Peter.
I agree with your point about index funds, and there are a lot of studies that have shown that it's really hard to beat indices with active management. So I think that that really is a good starting point. There are a couple of other ways to mitigate that risk, even for somebody at that stage in their life. And Warren Buffett years ago used to have an analysis that showed that in any 5-year period, if you were invested in the stock market, if you could put the money away for 5 years, you're going to have a positive return. So the volatility smooths out, and it becomes, obviously more of a curve in terms of stock market returns once you can get rid of some of that short-term volatility. And Pacific Life used to have an analysis that showed the drawdown risk at any one point of time like that. If you needed the money a year out, you've got real risk in the stock market. 10 years out, much less so. So there are ways that you can build around that. The stock market portion, the market return portion isn't tapped into until 5 years out, 7 years out, 10 years out. But there is there's a way that those risks can be mitigated. And then clearly within some of the products from the insurance companies, I mean, frankly, what they're doing is they're using derivatives to provide an upside return and then cap out or rather put a floor on any kind of losses. And the derivative market just continues to become more and more liquid. So I think we'll see more, likely more of those kind of products that also mitigate risk through derivatives.
Buster?
So I think I think with the market-based products from our agency is we're seeing more traditional sales of our annuity, structured settlement sales, and not market-based. Now, having said that, I think there was almost a panic back during COVID and when basically the industry lost well over half of its premium. Let's say $3 billion. Let's say maybe even 2.5. There was a panic that and it was driven by agencies as well as key individuals with resources that we had to do something. We had to do something because the industry may just fail. And so I think market-based products came about basically to address that situation. And so we have that now. I do think I agree that at 5.5, 6%, with a tax rate, internal rate of return, if you're getting 9.5, 10% taxable equivalent yield of that product, it's going to be very difficult for anything to achieve that rate of return. So I think market-based products, while will be there and will be an alternative, and will give opportunities to have an audience, because you do have a new product that offers new market-based objectives that we don't currently have or didn't. I do think at the end, if you have a taxable equivalent yield of 8 to 10%, it's going to be very difficult for that market-based product to proliferate.
Brad, you had started to talk as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Nolan. I was just going to say this in terms of, I don't disagree with either Buster or Peter's comments about base interest rates in annuities, but I will say they've been around, and certainly Buster's been around long enough to remember cases cashing out when taxable equivalents were even higher, taxable equivalent yields from structured settlement annuities. One of the things that I think is very wise for all of our structured settlement consultants to keep in mind is to understand and be able to be conversant with market-based products. While it always makes sense for us to put security, certainty at the center of planning for people who've experienced something terrible and uncertain, we can't take away a sense of agency either. And there are a lot of people who, if given an option to have a supplement to their structured settlement annuity of a market-based plan, they will be able to decide, yeah, that's something I'm going to do, rather than taking that as cash and investing it post-settlement on my own and being taxable. There will also be people who, given the options, will say, you know what, I want to actually structure more because I see when given this this option on the table that it's more important for me to lock up with known returns a larger percentage of my settlement. So I think it behooves any settlement consultant to become an expert in the high quality market-based products.
David.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add quickly, because I know our time is running short, is I think it's proper for us to all recognize a couple of factors that this is cyclical. I mean, when interest rates are high, maybe the uptake on market base is going to go down and interest rates will recede and it'll flow that way. And, you know, you think about this in planning for somebody that's a 6-year-old, you know, it's a 60, 70-year window, right? There's going to be a lot of changes that go on. But juxtaposed to that is the fact that people have to make a decision at a moment in time, right? And a lot of people are not very good at managing money. All right. It's a very stressful time for folks, right? And it would be, I think, really incumbent upon us to have, you know, defense, plaintiff attorneys, both brokers working together on the plan of what people were thinking in that moment of time, right? What is going on in the world? What is going on with interest rates? What's the market done for the last 6 months? What's it likely to do in the future? And that all sort of goes into the root of how do you decide in your gut as a plaintiff family how much to structure, how much to take market based. And everyone's going to be individualized, recognize that it's going to be at the moment in time. We can see larger trends, but I think that's why the consultants involved, talking to one another, everybody on the same page, what's interested in the person, is probably the best to expand and use whatever product. It's great to have this giant toolbox, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know, and as far as time goes, you know, we've got plenty of time. In fact, we're just going to take over the show, and it's just going to be us 8 for the rest of the day. So dig in, folks. It's going to be great. No, but Chris, Chris, Kathryn, too, if you want to make a comment, we have plenty of time.
I'll add one last thing from my end is the new shiny object always can seem really nice, but if it's not done the right way, it's not worth going for. So I think companies like Pacific and other companies that are going ahead and getting a PLR, things like that, I think that's done the right way. And I think that also makes it a lot easier to get on some of these approved lists, because I've lost some cases where clients wanted something like this, fee structure plus or anything like that, but they're not on the approved list. So I think part of that is, you know, doing it the right way, getting people educated, and then working with claims people and things like that to get more of these market-based products, you know, on the approved list, I think would be key.
All right.
I would also add,
yeah, please.
Right now, it seems like the stock market isn't as hot as it was, right? And that's what we were facing when we had the really low interest rates, is the stock market was really hot. And now it's a little uncertain, and maybe, you know, things aren't looking as great right now with a bunch of factors in the world. And the interest rates look really great that we can provide. Yeah. But that's not going to always be the case. So like Dave was saying, the more tools that we have, the better that we're able to expand it, the better that we're able to give people options. Even if it's different alternatives of fixed along with, you know, GSS or some of those kinds of things, people like choices. And then you can lead them to a good choice.
Very well said.
Yeah, very well said. So moving on a little bit, so one of the things that being on the board has taught me is that we are really good at chasing things around. And one of the things that we've found ourselves chasing recently is that GLAM memo that has been misconstrued and misinterpreted. I think you could argue intentionally, particularly in North Carolina and California recently, to suggest that somehow traditional structured attorney fee products are under attack. Those are that's actually a direct quote. So my question is, I mean, are you hearing from people in the field that their clients are reluctant to engage in the product, and are you you know, and what you know, beyond what NASTA has already done, we were able to get a letter sent out to the North Carolina Association for Justice, and we're working back channels with other associations to try to get the message out. But I mean, is there concern from the field in your organizations, and is there Is there something that you can see we can do that would help put out that fire? And I'll open that up to anyone who
I'll start that one. I'll start
yeah,
that
please.
a quick answer. I will say first, I think that we've seen some very good responses to the GLAM from high quality tax law firms, and we went out and obtained them for our firm. NASTA did a great job of educating folks and getting the appropriate opinions, and many have. And frankly, despite a couple of instances of a challenge to traditional structured attorney fees that you mentioned, Nolan, we've seen a 250% increase in the last 12 months in structured attorney fees, and part of that's driven, of course, by interest rates, a good part. But oddly enough, I'd say a portion of it had been driven by the conversation around the GLAM, frankly, reminding a lot of the plaintiffs bar that structured attorney fees are available and have been a centerpiece of structured settlements industry since the 90s in particular, has actually prompted more attorneys to ask, and so I think we're having to bat a couple of adverse opinions from here or there. For the most part, the market has responded very well. I think our firms have done a good job of educating folks, and we're seeing a significant increase in structured attorney fees.
Are you saying no publicity is bad publicity?
You took the words out of my mouth.
I think the response was good. That
Yeah.
the way that our industry rallied to respond to an interesting memorandum from the IRS sort of reinforced the way we typically handle structured attorney fees in our industry. And with higher interest rates, attorneys got the message and they're asking for them.
Oh, Buster.
Well, in a way, you could look at the GLAM as being a good thing, because what it did was it identified an avenue that was being pursued that was different than the traditional way to structure attorney's fees. And so the fact that we learned early that was not viewed favorably by the IRS, and NASTA, we made a huge effort to try to find out A, what that avenue is, and B, how that differs from what traditional structured attorney's fees are. I think that is actually, in a way, helped to get us back on course. Certainly, we don't want to get so far down the road that this one particular avenue that was being pursued would endanger the entire process. And I think that that it has not. I think that the efforts by NASTA to identify the differences, and if we continue to go down the path that we've been doing heretofore, that you'll be fine. That's shown by attorneys' letters as well as others. And so in a way, you could view it that it was, that we caught a break, that we had a dangerous thing going on. And so now we're back on course, and the interest rates are helping us, and the other products that aren't doing what that was doing is actually good for us.
And Dave, how are things looking at Brant Hickey? Are you seeing the same trends as Brad is seeing at Arcadia?
I think pretty much that's the case. It has raised questions and has reinvigorated a conversation, of course, about the use of a structure for attorney fees and so on. And we've seen a lot more questions because of our settlement analyzer tool that we've been working on that does the historical comparisons, or really hypothetical historical comparisons to market-based, possible returns versus the guaranteed interest rate of the structure, whether you're doing attorney fees or you're doing a regular personal injury case. And I think any conversations along those lines that say, well, let's have another look at this and what does this really mean and how does this really compare is just really overall really good for an industry, instead of either we're just dismissing it out of hand. It's knowledge of the people sort of sitting in the middle. So I think I agree very much with the trends that we're seeing. And sometimes there's that saying that, all ink is good ink. And if it's an obstacle and you overcome it, you're stronger because of it. And it gives us a platform to really talk more about the benefits.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, tomorrow morning, Matt Meltzer, who's one of the authors of NASTA's response to the North Carolina article, and John McCullough will be on a panel to discuss the GLAM and the implications. But if any of the members ever have a question about the GLAM, and of course you can always go to your agency for questions. But of course, NASTA itself is a resource for that. Email Eric, email Kerri, email anybody on the board but me, and you'll be happy, and we'll be happy to get you the information that we have. Nothing that we do on NASTA is intended only for the use of the people on the board. It's all designed to benefit the association and its members. So.
And on that note, I would like to give a huge applause to Tacker, former president of NASTA's board, because of his relationships in North Carolina and with the North Carolina bar, is how we found out pretty much of some of the things that have been circulating through their plaintiffs bar, so that we could come back with an answer with good information about what structured settlement attorney fees really are and what the GLAM really meant. So thank you, Tacker, for all of your hard work on that. We also have a group of people in California who are bringing the same things to our attention as well. So we really appreciate everyone's local ears on the ground of bringing those issues up to us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about what the future looks like moving forward. And, we mentioned earlier too about the Next Gen Committee, and I believe it was Kathryn who mentioned, we do have an aging consultant force. We do have a lot of consultants who are aging out of the industry.
As evidenced by all the gray on the panel.
So we are talking about what does the next gen of NASTA look like, and what is the younger broker group? What are they comprised of? How are we bringing them into our industry? How are we going out and looking for new talent and bringing them into the fold? So this is open to all of the panelists, but do you see that we do have a need to start bringing in the next generation of consultants?
That's a softball.
It is. And then leading into, what does that look like for your firms? Is your firm doing anything specific to attract new talent, or are you leaving it up to the individual consultants? And Dave, we'll start with you, since one of the co-chairs of the Next Gen committee is Aaron Hickey, Dave's son. So I'm going to let you lead this one off.
Well, thanks, Kerri. My stock answer is, we of course we need new and younger consultants, and the question about how do we attract them, of course, is, well, we just got to pay them more money, because in the marketplace today, the only way you can sort of hire people, it seems, is you have to pay them more money than where they are now, and they're all in great demand. The big challenge is, they don't teach consulting in college, and it's not on TV, and it's not romantic, and it's not sexy, supposedly. And when you think about the wonderful education panel group that we have in the program in Las Vegas, I think there was one new structured settlement consultant, young person, that attended. And historically, we all sort of have to admit that, succession planning comes normally through family or friends of family. And it's not easy to go out and recruit right out of college and put 17 trainees into a department and see if 10 of them work out. So I think it is a real challenge that I think all of us need to get in a room together as industry folks to discuss what might be the best way to do that. There is training available. We have a great education committee. But it's also going to be, I think, a need to invest in younger people that don't come with a book of business, and maybe provide a pretty rigorous training academy can all contribute to, and then set them on the path of, look, we don't have penetration in market like Peter said, 3%. A lot of us are competing in the same companies, the same attorneys, the same firms, and there's tons of regional carriers and tons of self-insureds and a lot of room for us to grow. And like Nolan said, start with younger people and send them out their way into those areas if we can identify them, and let them work the smaller cases, cut their teeth, build up their bona fides, so that, when they become gray hairs like the rest of us, they're even better at doing what we're doing. But I think we're going to have, as an industry, to maybe save a little money and invest a little money in encouraging and recruiting younger people and get them mentors, as I've had growing through my insurance industry, to help me along and teach me and take me under their wing and let me grow and make mistakes and develop my own book from scratch.
Kathryn, do you have anything additional to add? What do you see are good ways of succession planning?
Well, I think that this may be a little unpopular to say, and it falls a little bit with what Dave is saying, but we've got to pay people. We can't keep so much at the top. And it needs to turn into a more mature industry where there is more of a team atmosphere, I think, and there's more groups doing things instead of individuals, because I think individually we're limited into what we can individually do. So one of the things that I'd like to do before I leave this industry is see if we can't get into some colleges, or offer programs where they teach insurance and talk to them about structures. And I mean, this is my career. This is how I have, I started working at desk at Mangelsdorf, and now I'm leading the practice group of a big insurance company in the U.S. So it can be done, and it's an exciting job with a lot of stuff to do. And I think we need to work on that. And I think we need to pay people. We need to educate people. We need to identify those people that we can pull in. We need to have patience. But most of all, we need to share our contacts and our knowledge and our money.
Can I follow up on that? I think Kathryn just raised a great point about teamwork. I believe very strongly in the team approach. Not only does it give better results to clients, but it creates an esprit de corps that is great for experienced consultants, and it's a key way of passing on knowledge to newer, younger consultants as well. I think we'll always be looking in sort of the traditional places for new structured settlement consultants. They've typically historically come from insurance adjusting, from attorney ranks, from financial planning and insurance sales, and then a few from off the wall places. That will always continue. But I think that one of the things we've seen at my firm at Arcadia is that among our top performing consultants, a very large percentage of them started as case managers or in other sort of support roles that are necessary. And we have implemented peer networking group, we've a mentoring program, a consultant development plan that's aimed at transforming people throughout a career to give them some potential pathways to consulting if that's something that they're interested in. I should give particular thanks to some of the people in our firm who are most involved in that. Many of them are known to everyone here: Patty Nelson, Maureen Flood, Paulette Jacobsmeyer, Nicole Peterson, Lynn Sullivan have been instrumental in that for us. I think there's no surprise that all of those names I just gave you were women's names. We've, traditionally utilize women in our industry and throughout the consulting ranks. That has changed a lot, and I think there's more opportunity for change there. We need to increase the numbers of people of color and make ourselves more broadly representative of the clients and the end customers that we serve. That's going to be a huge key to growth, is to actually have a more diverse group of people in our industry. And I'm confident that that is a very strong way. Bring people in, give them potential career pathways, and they let them learn, all of the necessary nuts and bolts as they're training for a more sales-oriented role.
Thanks, Brad. And Peter, I know that Ringler has a very robust young consultants group. How are they impacting how Ringler is doing business?
Well, we have the Young Ringler Forum, which has been just invaluable to other consultants and to the company. Looking at new ways of doing things. What's the right way to adjust to technology and to use it most effectively? And they've been very helpful to us in terms of adjusting our business, but at the same time, hasn't made that much of a difference in really attracting in new talent. And I think we share the same problems that everybody else has mentioned. If we're really honest about where our growth has come from, much as Dave and others have said, it's been family members. And something like increasing the birth rate is not an effective business strategy. So we clearly need to look elsewhere. And we've made a major investment in, I would say, 4 areas to help us with this. And I would say those would be onboarding, training, technology, and then relationships, or as Kathryn said, mentoring, trying to position somebody so that they're going to be successful. And actually, I mentioned technology as that third element, but excuse me, technology is really all encompassing, because that's what allows us to do good onboarding, training, technology, and then to monitor those relationships and make sure that the right things are taking place. But I think we all face the same headwinds on this, and it's not just a structured settlement problem. It's a problem for any sales-oriented business. You'd hear the same thing from the major mutual life insurance companies with their ability to attract in new agents. And there are a couple of reasons for it. Our impression is that a lot of younger people coming in have difficulty seeing the long-term upside compared with the short-term. And, they're thinking in sort of 1-year intervals in their jobs rather than, in our estimation, something like the 5 years that it takes to really become a successful consultant. And that's hard to break down. It's not just for us, it's for other people. Now that same phenomenon that, maybe it takes, pick a number, but it's more than 3 years, maybe it's less than 5 years. That is a significant investment, again, going back to what Kathryn was saying, to really bring people on and keep them there. And of course, you have the potential always that somebody can leave after you've started that investment process, and that pushes out the number of years, your average life in effect, before bringing in somebody new becomes really successful. That is, I think, in our business, as in most sales businesses, it's just a fact of life and something that we're going to have to continue to grapple with and find ways of dealing with that financial commitment. The other problem, again, is everybody's focused on, this doesn't have a lot of visibility. There aren't that many people coming out of college who even know about this, much less understand, the great business that it could potentially be for them. We've started to work on that at the edges. We had a summer intern this year that worked out very well. We asked her to go back and tell all her friends, that sort of thing. And I think that kind of word of mouth is important, especially when we're expanding the ranks on a limited basis, kind of person by person. And, we want to continue to find ways that we increase that visibility on college campuses for people who maybe have never heard about our industry, as well as, the usual sources for new talent in the industry, like claims adjusters and attorneys who'd rather be on this side of the table. As Brad was saying, too, there are so many exciting opportunities for us to expand, but it does have challenges, and it does require some real investment.
Great answer.
And we'll continue right down the bottom line there. How about Buster?
Well, that's so I think IT is important. For the next generation, I think that's going to be important. But the challenges that we face in bringing sort of the next generation in, I think, is the investment of that, and also this is a complicated business. It's just, you just can't walk in and and sell a structured settlement. So the bar is high, and so they need the next gen needs to start to learn about the business and everything. I think that is a challenge that we all face, and I do think that the market-based products are attracting new younger people because they were perhaps in financial planning and have learned about it and are seeking out to the brokers that are really trying to sell those products. And I think that is an area where you're finding younger talent that is curious about what we do. But I do think that everything that is said here is true. You have to invest, and then and that's based on demand. So we've gone from 2.5 years of whether we would be in this forum talking to one another to now in this forum of growth and wondering how we get the next generation involved. So this is it's very interesting dynamic that has occurred here over the last 2 years, and so I think that will continue to be the case, and it's hard to plan when that environment is the way it is.
And saving the best for last. Chris, I know you have something to add.
Thank you, Kerri. I will start with family is what I'd suggest. It has worked very well for me, and thank you, Stan, for that. But obviously, I started in just doing case management stuff and then moved into marketing and then became a broker and now an agency head. And a major hurdle that I had was I'm still doing some broker work, but it's trusting my clients to other people. Because as we all do, we answer cell phones at 9 o'clock. We get back to people and send quotes or do something on Saturdays and Sundays and all that stuff. And, part of the reason that I think my clients enjoy working with me is because I'm always there. And it's been hard for me to kind of give up some of that to other people. So I've luckily been able to talk to some of the older generation brokers, things like that, because you have to build the trust in the people around you and find those people that you can trust to kind of hand off some of those clients and some of those duties. And I had a really hard time doing that. We have had luck, obviously hiring from claims. We have several attorneys that are, our vice president, Scott Brown's a former attorney, things like that. But yeah, finding the younger generation, Stan and I speak at Drake Law School every year. That's trying to find the younger attorneys that'll hopefully be future clients and things like that. And we've gotten a lot of calls later on from some that went on to work at firms that we've never worked with. But those are also some people that come to us after time and say, hey, I really liked the 2 days that you spent talking to our class and things like that. So, that was very helpful. So I highly suggest if you've got a law school close by, that's something you could absolutely try and do. But like everyone said, paying people is what gets good, high quality people in the door, and finding those people and trying to explain what we do, because they don't teach anything about it in college. And you don't have people that know a whole lot about what our industry is. But I think when people find out about our industry, that we are literally here to help people, and there's obviously money to be made, but I think all of us very much enjoy what we do. I do not mind going to work. When we were working from home, I miss seeing the people in my office and things like that. So it is a fun and very rewarding career. It's just finding the right people.
Well, you guys have done a great job of answering our questions, but since we've got a little time, Eric has some questions from the chat that he wants to pose to you guys. Eric, take it away.
I actually didn't know you were here. I
Oh.
just happened to be in Southern California, and it's good to see the two of you.
Nice. Thank you for dropping by.
I'm just having fun.
As a hint, get rid of your location services on your phone, and Eric won't be able to find you.
First of all, it's great to see 5 of you. Dave, I know you're there somewhere. You keep going in and out, but thank you all for being here. What a fabulous way to start the program off. Kerri mentioned at the beginning, we invited 6 industry leaders. You're not just leaders, you're inspirational professionals to me, and I know to many, many people in our industry. I look across the screen at all of you. All of you have contributed so much to our industry, to our association, to our activities. It's hard to begin to thank you enough. A couple of the chats, though, that have come through. One is from, and thank you very much, Paula Rubenstein, for straightening me out, from a business support professional. And she asked, how can I get more actively involved in NSSTA? Well, we do have a business support membership. Are you all aware of that membership, and can you help encourage business support people in your organization to find a pathway into NSSTA, and what does that pathway provide them? Maybe Brad, start with you, since it's always great to see you first thing in the morning.
Thank you very much. Sure. The answer is yes. We can probably do more to promote broad industry knowledge, including the NSSTA Business Associate membership among our folks. We, as I said in my answer to the last question, I think that those are the professionals that kind of are going to best fill in the consulting ranks in the years to come. So having them not only trained within our organization, but understanding and participating in NSSTA education, in NSSTA forums is a great idea, and we will continue to promote it.
Well, I don't want to cut anybody else off, but I rarely get a chance to cut my bosses off for anything. But I have another question that I'd like to ask all of you. And this comes from an executive director of a really powerful trade association in Washington, D.C., who works in the structured settlements industry. And his question is, when the people that organized NSSTA to begin with, they had a vision. And the vision was to bring provider companies and producer member companies and others together. It was ingenious. And if you look at this organization, can you tell me in just a few words, your own words, what do our life company members bring to this association, to bring to this industry that's so valuably important to all the work that you do as professional structured settlement industry consultants? Kathryn, can I start with you?
Sure. I mean, the relationship with the life companies is invaluable. And what they bring to us is new ideas, lots of education, connection with them, problem solving. So all of these things happen because they're in NSSTA and we're able, to meet with them on a regular basis. I don't know what this organization would be without their support.
Chris, how about you?
Yeah, just from talking to people that I know of that have served on the board, they have said that very often it's the life company people that are some of the hardest workers out there, which is we very much appreciate. But it also lets us bounce ideas and things, as a broker, plaintiff broker, defense broker, our ideas, they're all well and good, but we have no idea how a life company is going to react to that, how their higher ups are. And so having their knowledge and information is 100% invaluable.
Buster, about you?
Well, I think the life companies, they are the driving force behind our industry. Obviously, we represent them and sell their product, but they are the ones that we work for and bring our clients and to them, with their needs and their desires. And I think the formation of NSSTA to protect 104A2 and 130C, which was the original. I don't know where Lynn is at this time. We could sure use him, but I think that the formation, of the group, was really the life companies driving it with the brokers to protect 104A2 and 130C to make sure that we're still able to provide a structured settlement to provide guarantees of dignity to the people that need them in this country. And so I think that is the primary purpose. And I think that the life companies, are responsible for that, and that we are stewards of that effort in making it happen.
And I can answer the question as far as where Len is. He's crying into his Dodgers towel right now, as I believe is probably what he's doing.
Peter, it's great to see
Go
you. Do you have some
Rangers.
thoughts on the life companies and the value they bring to a
Yes,
structured
thank you,
settlement
Eric. It's
solution?
great to see you too. I mean, let's be sort of almost brutally honest here. We're the intermediaries, and the life companies are the ones that have put up the capital. That capital is at risk in terms of meeting that return, and they might make a profit on it. They might not, depending upon how the contract goes. They've designed the product for us. They get the PLRs, and collectively, they create the market that makes this competitive and allows us to get the best possible transaction for our customers. It's a limited group of companies. This is obviously a very cooperative kind of industry, but you really have to take into account the entire structured settlement enterprise, not just the sale process. And that function of capital at risk is really what makes this work, and that is all on the life company balance sheets.
Brad, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to underestimate the value of our life company partners and others. They not only provide the products and the innovation, they've been very, very responsive over the years. They're also a terrific front line for us in terms of regulators and legislators. They've always had a big investment in keeping tabs of what's going on in the regulatory framework, and willing to lend their time and resources to important efforts that we have as an industry to maintain and expand our opportunities. So I think the partnership is great, and I appreciate in the last couple of years when things were really difficult in the pandemic that they've stuck with us, and we see them coming out more innovative and more supportive than ever.
It's interesting. Just since you've been speaking, the chat feature, my chat feature, has been lighting up with the following. Thanks to Jordan Bossler and American General for helping us to draft the California premium tax issue. Thanks to Eric Milikononik from USA for his leadership, helping us address the NCOIL issues and the SSPA issues and the documentation that Betty keeps beating us over the head with. It's just, the list goes on and on and on, and it is an effective partnership.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the committee listings, and there are names from provider companies littered throughout there. You look at the speakers on our various programs over the years, and life company people are providing that intel. I mean, they are a tremendous asset to what we're able to provide our members.
A comment came in that said, and Buster actually made a point of this, is our number one responsibility is to protect the tax code provisions. And my thought has always been the very best way to do that is to educate members of Congress and staff. This past year, Kerri, Nolan, Buster, the board of directors, and 38 of our members came to Washington. All of you have participated on Capitol Hill. Some with much greater vigor and energy than others. Brad, I'm talking about you. But others, all of you have come to Capitol Hill. Can you tell us, the audience, our members, how valuable it is for you to leave your super secret suite of offices to come to Washington, D.C., to meet with members of Congress, and to attempt to explain the value, the importance, the critical value of a structured settlement, and why the tax code provision should be not just maintained, but protected and promoted?
It is easier for Brad to bring that enthusiasm because he's been represented by, I think, 275 of members of the Congress at one point or
Yes, he
another.
has.
Yeah.
Actually, I should make it clear that Brad Cantwell came in 5th in the vote for Speaker earlier today. So, Brad, you came very, very close.
We were rooting for you.
How important is it to visit Capitol Hill?
Since you're using my name, I'll say this. Just as a couple of others said about bringing new people into our industry, it's very attractive to young people because what we do is we resolve conflicts and we help people who need the most help. That's a really attractive message to take to members of Congress and their staffs as well. And due to the efforts of everybody involved in NASTA, and certainly you, Eric, at the leadership level, we enjoy a broad support that is almost unheard of in Congress in terms of our level of interest from both sides of the aisle, and a broad number of people, given how small we are. And so it is incredibly rewarding to tell that story to members of Congress who are primarily responsible for the existence of our industry. And I would encourage, everybody who has a chance to be to get to know the members of Congress where they live, and if they can, to join the NASTA efforts in Washington, D.C., and be a part of something that's it's a really great celebration of a good industry.
Peter.
First, Eric, I would say that it was terrific participating in that last March. I really had a great time. It was so well organized. You and Debbie did a fantastic job. You also did a really great job of finding out, who had relationships with particular congressmen and making sure that those meetings took place so that we had maximum benefit out of it. And, one of the things that we talked about in Washington is that this isn't under sort of immediate attack, but part of the reason for that is because we do have these meetings, and we do bring to the attention of some of the congressmen the important work that everybody does and all the benefits out of the structured settlements industry. Now, when we did those meetings, we had a couple of them where won't name the names here, but it was pretty clear that this is the first instance where they had really considered structured settlements. So getting that kind of mind share is just critical if we're going to preserve the tax benefit. And I think the fear that everybody has is you have some junior staffer who's, working on a tax bill or something like that and thinks, this might be a revenue opportunity. So you really want, that kind of mind share. You want to make sure that that is really clear. And the final point, I'd say, this is really important, and don't want to get political here, but I don't think anybody on this call is going to think that political turmoil is likely to diminish in the next couple of years. So we're likely to have more people, new people, and that work of getting in front of them and making sure that they understand this business and the benefits to society are greater than ever.
And, Peter, I want to comment on something you said. You mentioned that it was great. It was great going there. I think that's one thing that's lost on it. It is also a tremendously rewarding experience for you individually to go there, to see, see these monuments, to listen to Buster's dog or whoever. Not Buster's, anyways. But no, I mean it is Peter's. But it is incredibly rewarding to get to go there. And if anybody's been to the Grand Canyon, and you can't appreciate the magnificence of it until you're standing at the edge. And I think the same is true of DC and the experience of watching the political machine. I mean, if you're once you're there, you can truly appreciate just how fantastic it is. And it's a great experience for you. And of course, you're doing great for NASTA.
I would also like to say that taking time out of our schedules to get to DC, we understand that that can be difficult as well. And so as much as we would love for you to join us the next time we are in DC meeting with Congress people and senators, getting involved at your local level is just as important. If you're not able to make the trip to DC, schedule a meeting in your local office. Get in front of your politicians in their own backyards. Sometimes, Eric, you'll probably say it might be a little bit easier to get in front of them at a local event as opposed to their hectic schedules in Washington. So getting in front of them and keeping them educated, however that happens, is important.
A few weeks ago, we had an opportunity to get together with Senator Grassley. Thankfully, Scott Brown was there, who is the #1 citizen of the state of Iowa. So Mr. Grassley and Scott Brown spent a good 5 minutes talking back and forth and back and forth. It was fabulous. And that's a good story. A not so good story is I persuaded my good friend Kathryn Criswell to support a politician not of her liking with a campaign contribution. And Kathryn told me in no uncertain terms that she's being visited by thousands of people from that political persuasion. Kathryn, I apologize publicly. I won't do it again until early next year, but thank you very much for your support.
The stop messages are just automatic now at this point.
Well, Well, you guys have been fantastic. And Nolan and Kerri, you two are terrific. That was great.
Thank you. Thank
we're,
you.
We're a team, but yeah, fantastic questions for all, answers for all those questions. You guys really, really did it great. And that 90 minutes, that's a record now, isn't
Yes,
it,
it
Eric?
is.
That's the longest NASTA presentation ever. We're calling Guinness after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all for
gentlemen, ladies.
joining
See you
us.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.